Parliament Square, Whitehall, Westminster and Lambeth Bridge. They are treating this as a terrorist incident.
Yes, indeed, they're saying that they are treating it as a terrorist incident until they know otherwise. Well, let's go now to Owen Bennett, who's the Deputy Political Editor of Huffington Post UK. Owen, what did you see and hear?
Well, I heard a noise which I thought was an explosion. We understand is where the journalists sit in Parliament. It does overlook Parliament Square. And often we're used to hearing lots of noises, lots of protests outside. So when you hear a noise, a whistle, an explosion, you don't automatically think it's an incident. But we heard this explosion and we sort of looked up in our room. And then we heard the gunshots, and that's when we ran over to the windows. And from what I could see, overlooking the yard, I saw one person, I saw the public fleeing across from the tube station end, running past, and then I saw a couple trying to run in to the yard itself. I don't think that was the person who was then injured. I think that might have just been perhaps a member of staff trying to get in here for safety, and I saw a policeman wrestle them to the ground. And then the police told us to stay where we were, but we could then obviously see the emergency services come in. We could see armed police descend on the area very heavily. The air ambulance land. I've just been told to come away from the window, so I have a police officer there. So that's basically what I could see.
And Owen, the security around Westminster has been enormously tightened in recent years, hasn't it? But not as much in the precincts as it is to actually get into the palace.
Yes, but we have constant reminders that this is obviously a high security target, and that this is a place that's at risk, and we're on a constant state of readiness. But even so, when this stuff happens, this does sort of surprise you. The police, the emergency services did leap in action very, very quickly. We see all the time police officers with guns patrolling the corridors here. They're very hostile security. They're always checking your pass. They're always reminding you to make sure that you need to look out who's around you. There's anyone there who's acting suspicious. So even though once you're inside you do feel quite safe, you are instructed to be quite vigilant, and most people are. So there is the presence, even though it does feel safe, there is that presence all the time here.
And we're looking at pictures right now of people clearly running away from the scene, being told by police to move away from the Palace of Westminster. It is presently in lockdown, as we heard.
Yeah, I mean, I can see from my vantage point lots of emergency vehicles, lots of police, lots of sniffer dogs as well going around, obviously looking if there's any kind of explosive device, I imagine. But I think it's safe to say that people are desperately trying to get information. As journalists, that's kind of our initial instinct. But I think everyone, is pretty shocked. Everyone's sort of, getting back to the job as quickly as they can.
Of course, Owen Bennett, many thanks.
Thank you.
We're just seeing a tweet from the St Thomas's Hospital, the guys in St Thomas's NHS Foundation Trust. St Thomas's is literally on the other side of the river from where this incident has taken place. They're saying staff and visitors at St Thomas's are being advised to remain on site during the current security incident. Obviously that is where those injured in this incident will be taken for treatment. If you're just joining us, an incident at 20 to 3 this afternoon, just outside the Palace of Westminster, here on Westminster Bridge as well. Reports that a car apparently collided with a number of people on the bridge. You can see them there being treated on the bridge. That car then went into the fencing at the side of the Palace of Westminster, and a man then ran into the Palace of Westminster, where it is reported he was wielding a knife, attacked a police officer, and then the attacker himself was shot by armed police. So a police officer had been stabbed. The Commons leader David Lidington told the shocked MPs inside the building that the area was still in lockdown. Let's talk to the Conservative MP Grant Shapps. A chaotic scene earlier. Grant Shapps, can you hear me?
Yeah, yes I can, yeah.
Can you just tell me what you saw?
Well, I was walking through the cloisters to go vote, which is what happens when the division bell goes off. That's the bell that rings when there's a vote. A lot of the MPs are over in Portcullis House area, which is where the officers are. And as we're streaming through to vote, we're in the outside bit, in what's called New Palace Yard. You'll have maps of that there. And I hear a commotion, bit of shouting maybe, and as I look around, I see the police have their guns lawn, and they're pointing at towards the gate direction, and then I hear four shots. I think 1, 2, 3, 4 in quick succession, one after the other, that was the moment that I guess the assailants were shot, and then immediately there was a police officer with guns and very, very quickly, right by our side, said, get down. So these MPs were walking through, we'll hit the ground and get down, get back. And we make our way inside to behind the walls of the palace, I guess you could say, and then up into the chamber. So that was the chain of the great events as I saw it.
Grant Shapps. Well, thank you very much for that.
Let's go over to our colleague, Joe Coburn, political correspondent and presenter of the Daily Politics, who is presently in the central lobby, in the central meeting area of the Palace of Westminster. Joe, what did you see? What did you hear?
Yes, Rita, I am now in central lobby, but actually when the shots were fired, I was in Portcullis House, which is the more modern part of the Palace of Westminster, close to where the incident took place. And I'd left with a friend to go back towards central lobby and the House of Commons when we heard the gunshots. Actually, I didn't realise what they were immediately, but when we saw dozens of armed police officers rushing past us to get to the area outside Westminster Hall, which is the oldest part of the Palace of Westminster, we knew there'd obviously been a serious incident. And at that point, we were rushed in with dozens of other people, visitors, parliamentarians, and of course, parliamentary staff, and told to go inside as quickly as possible, which we truly did. And here we are, between the House of Lords and the House of Commons, with at least a few hundred other people, young, old, school children, MPs, peers, visitors. We've been here for probably the best part of 45 minutes, maybe possibly an hour, and there was definitely a lot of tension. We were all extremely worried. We didn't know exactly what had happened. Of course, listening to some of the programmes and piecing together what people had told us, we now understand why the shots were fired, that there had been a stabbing, and that there was a serious security risk.
And Joe, are you presently locked now into that building in the Palace of Westminster?
There has been a lockdown ever since I arrived here, suspended in terms of any parliamentary business in both the House of Lords and the House of Commons. And at the point we arrived, MPs who were inside the chamber at the time were told to remain there, and all the officials who stand outside both chambers were there stopping people going backwards and forwards. So there was a total lockdown. Armed police everywhere you looked in order to protect us and to make sure that no one was able to get into the main part of the building and that we couldn't leave. At the moment, in fact, I have seen David Blunkett, former Cabinet Minister, just walk past me. Small numbers of people are now being moved to other parts of the building because it is quite squashed in here. I mean, there are a lot of people, it's very hot. Some of the older members and also visitors are sitting down on the benches provided while we wait to hear exactly what is going to happen to them next and when it's going to happen. But yes, lockdown and suspension.
Joe Coburn there, thank you very much for that update. And just to bring you a little bit more information from the Metropolitan Police, we're asking people to avoid the following areas: Parliament Square, just outside Parliament, Whitehall, Westminster Bridge, Lambeth Bridge and Victoria Street, up to Embankment Tube. This, they say, is to allow the emergency services to deal with the ongoing incident. Officers, including firearms officers, remain on the scene, and Metropolitan Police say that they are treating this as a terrorist incident until they know otherwise.
They're also appealing for anyone with photos or film of the incident to pass them on to police. Well, Parliament itself was sitting at the time these events unfolded. This is the moment the Deputy Speaker, Lindsay Foyle, suspended the House of Parliament.
Order! I am now going to suspend the sitting of the House. This House is now suspended, but please wait here.
Well, that's what happened in the Commons. Let's hear from former BBC political correspondent, Labour press officer